Welcome to the Genealogy Gems Podcast. It's a show filled with family history, research, strategies and techniques, news and entertainment, and inspiration. And I'm your host, Lisa Louise Cook. Hello and welcome to Genealogy Gems Podcast episode number 145. In this episode, I've got another blast from the past for you. We have reached deep into the podcast archive and retrieved episodes 5 and 6. Now, back in those days, I was still figuring out how to record the audio, so those episodes didn't sound all that great. But we have remastered these for this episode so that you can clearly hear all the gems. In the first episode, number 5, we touch on using the video website YouTube for genealogy, and then I walk you through how to bring websites back from the dead with Google. And then we wrap things up with a cool way to spice up your genealogy database. And then in episode number 6, I have a gem for you called Cast a Shadow on Your Ancestors, and we cover the free genealogy website, US GenWeb. All right, I am setting the Genealogy Gems time machine to 2007. So hang on, here we go.
Hello everyone, you're listening to one of the crown jewels of podcasting, Lisa Cook, on the Genealogy Gems Podcast.
Joining me today. I hope your research is going well, and I've got some gems for you. It's a gorgeous sunny day out here on the West Coast, and I think we're getting spoiled as the rest of the country is probably still dealing with a lot of winter weather, but it's beautiful. I've been out in the garden, and I actually had a really exciting weekend this weekend. My mom drove in from out of state, and she had a U-Haul behind that car, and it was filled with treasures from my grandmother. And my mom and her husband are downsizing and actually going to be hitting the road and doing RVing, I think, almost full time during the year. So they're weeding through the house, letting go of things, and I just feel so amazingly fortunate to be getting some of the treasures from my grandmother. And I'm going to tell you more about her later, but anyway, I ended up getting her cedar chest that she got when she became engaged. I also got a wonderful pie safe. It's a big old wood cabinet that's painted green, has kind of like a tin lining front, and I have lots of old quilts and things that are just going to fill that up, and I'm really excited about adding it to my family room. The other thing that she brought, which I don't even think I remember these, was a place setting for 8 of a beautiful china pattern. And I think I remember seeing one of the platters, but I don't remember Grandma pulling these things out very often. They must have been very, very special. And anyway, they're gorgeous, and they have kind of a pink color around the edge, and I'm just beyond words. She also brought me her a jewelry box, which I remember sitting on my grandma's bureau for as long as I can remember, and some other smaller miscellaneous items. Oh, and a large oval-framed picture of Grandma at about 2 years old, so that would have made it about 1915. And she's just adorable with her little page boy haircut. And it has a thick gold gilt frame. It's already up in my living room. I'm ecstatic. So anyway, you can't ask for a better family history weekend than that, right? And it was fun just to sit and talk with Mom and kind of get the background details. I try really hard to take photos of items as I get them and make notes about who they're from and what the history is on them, because, I don't know, I'm getting older. I forget. So it's a good idea if you're getting any goodies like that you document them as you go. And, of course, I am still working on the preparations for my daughter's wedding. I cannot wait to add that union to the family chart. It's going to be coming up in June, and lots of work to be done, but we're having a wonderful time. And, of course, I've really been enjoying hearing from all of you. And that leads us to the mailbox. got an email this week from Mike O'Laughlin of the Irish Roots Cafe, and he writes, "Congratulations on your podcast. I'm sure it will help many folks out there. I was glad to see the fine Irish families of Scully and Lynch on your latest show notes." Thanks so much, Mike, for writing. It's great to hear from you. You can visit his Irish Roots Cafe at www.irishroots.com, and I'll have a link for that in the show notes on the website. He's got lots of really rare Irish books, newsletters. Mike has a blog, which is great, and, of course, his podcast. So check that out. And I noticed a neat new feature on Mike's website that I've actually incorporated into the Genealogy Gems website, and that is a voicemail box. And if you go to the website at www.genealogygemspodcast.com, you'll see on the right sidebar, down the right-hand side, a voicemail box. I've actually put the first message on there. I have left a message just for you, my listeners. And all you have to do is you'll see the name Lisa, click on it, and you'll listen to the message from me. And, of course, I would love to hear messages from you. So to do that, you just click on the bar at the bottom that says Leave Me a Message to be able to record one. It's going to open a window, and there you're going to type your name and an email address, which is not made public in any way, so don't worry about that. And as long as you have a microphone plugged into your computer, you just click record and you can start talking. The maximum time for the messages is 2 minutes, and I'm sure that you can get in a good few words about what you're up to in your family history or any suggestions, comments that you have on the show. I would love to hear from you, and we can make those available to all our listeners. Next up, our first gem of the day. Our first gem is follow-up on YouTube. YouTube.com is the site that we covered in episode number 4, and you can go to the website and check out those notes and listen to that episode if you missed it. And I want to give a big thank you to Bill Puller of the Genealogy Tech Podcast for collaborating with me on that project and bringing you all the information about not only how to find videos that may pertain to your family history on YouTube, but also Bill gave us some great instructions that were really easy to follow about how to upload your own family videos. So I think you'll have lots of fun with that. You know, YouTube has been in the news a lot lately. There's a concern raised by Viacom this last month about YouTube allowing people to post videos that appear to have a potential for copyright infringement. Viacom produces television shows and media that they own the copyright to, and lots of people put those out there. So that's an issue that they're kind of struggling through now that Google owns YouTube.com, and Google is working out, I guess, that situation, and we'll have to see what that leads to. The nice thing is it doesn't really, hopefully, affect genealogists too much, because copyright usually isn't much of an issue in terms of the kind of videos that we might be interested in uploading. But I really see the future for family historians sharing videos to just be huge. It's going to be an endless opportunity utilizing YouTube. And I tried my hand at posting my own family history videos this week using Bill's easy-to-follow instructions. And actually, it was really easy. I was pleasantly surprised. If you wanted to refer back to Bill Puller's instructions on the Genealogy Tech Podcast, go to www.genealogytechpodcast.com and go to episode number 9. Take a listen, and he's got some notes there, and I'll have a link to that in my show notes. To create my videos, I'm actually on a Windows PC format. I used a program called Pinnacle, and I've been using Pinnacle for several years. I've actually run into a few problems in trying to use it. It's just not as stable a software as I'd like it to be. I tend to run into some crashing situations, particularly the more I use any of the special effects that it provides, the more we get into crashing situations. If you're on a Mac platform, you can try, I think probably the best product out there is probably Final Cut. My goal in the future is to migrate to Mac and to use Final Cut for my media production. I know that Bill referred to Movie Maker. I actually tried starting my projects out in Movie Maker, Windows Movie Maker, and the challenge I came up with was the fact that it really only has one track available for audio. And of course, I love having music in the background to kind of help set the tone for what I'm producing. And I found that I had to choose between adding a music track or adding my narration. I did a quick Google search on trying to find a fix around that, and I think it is possible to overlay them, but it gets tricky and Movie Maker doesn't appreciate that very much, so it kind of caused some problems. And in the end, I decided to go back and use Pinnacle just because it has that flexibility of several tracks. You can add video, you can overlay photographs, you can add multiple tracks of narration or music. And of course, it has a lot of built-in transitions and things that make for a really nice production. I posted the 2 videos. Now, one of the things that Bill told us was that there was a limitation on size in terms of the videos. And although my total video was less than 10 minutes long, it was actually a little over the 100 megabytes that you're allowed. So I went ahead and broke it in 2. So you'll find it as a Nurse in Training, Part 1, and a Nurse in Training, Part 2. There's a link to the videos in the show notes. Now you can go to youtube.com and in the search box type Nurse in Training, and I think they'll pop right up. But I'm going to go ahead and see if I can't embed those into the website, so you'll be able to play them directly from the Genealogy Gems website. There's an opportunity, though, if you do go into YouTube to view the videos, you can leave me comments, you can rate the videos. That's really fun, as you can have that interactive play between the viewers and the people putting the videos up there. And also check out the Genealogy Gems playlist if you haven't already on YouTube. I referred to that in episode number 4. And I've put some really fun and informative videos in that playlist I think that you'll really enjoy that are all family history related. If you join YouTube, you can actually subscribe to my playlist. So as I find new things out there and add them to the playlist, you'll be notified and you can take a look at them from there. The videos I put together, A Nurse in Training, Parts 1 and 2, highlight the nursing years of my grandmother, Alfreda Burkett. It was all of her treasures that I got this weekend. And I actually, in the video, it was interesting, I made a mention of this cedar chest that she had gotten and the story behind it because I'd interviewed my grandfather years ago. And then on my doorstep this weekend was a cedar chest, the exact one that I referred to in the video. She had a wonderful career and kept very detailed diaries of all of her years in nursing training. So I've kind of melded that together. Really tells the story as completely as I can, at least at this point. So I hope you enjoy those. Coming up next in gem number 2, bringing back websites from the dead. This is a neat little gem that I've come across recently and wanted to bring to your attention, that you can actually bring back websites from the dead with Google. And what that means is, when you do a search in Google and you go to click on the link in the results, and you find that you get this file not found, or this website is no longer there, whatever the error message is. That's kind of frustrating because obviously it's come up for a reason, that it matches some of the criteria that you were searching on. But it doesn't mean that that information is necessarily gone forever, and you might be able to find it in the cache version of the website. Now, Google takes a snapshot of each page that it examines and caches it or stores it, that version, as a backup. It's what Google uses to judge if a page is really a good match for your query. In the case of a website that no longer exists, a cached copy is a snapshot of the website when it was still active, and it's hidden away or cached. Practically every search result includes a cache link. You've probably noticed it. I know up until recently I really had never bothered to use it. I wasn't sure what it was. But if you click on that link, it takes you to the Google cached version of that web page instead of the current version of the page, which may indeed be no longer there. And this is really useful if the original page is unavailable because of, it could be because of internet congestion, it could be down or overloaded site, or just plain slow website for whatever reason it's not loading. Since Google's servers are typically faster than many web servers, you can often access a page's cached version much faster than the page itself, so it can speed up your search process. Or it could be that the owners recently moved the page and it's just gone from the web. Now, sometimes you can even access the cached version from a site that otherwise requires a registration or a subscription. So that's a possibility. If Google returns a link to a page that really appears to have nothing to do with what you were searching on, or if you can't find the information that you're seeking on the current version of the page, just take a look at that cached version. What you do is, when you've gone to the page and there's an error message or for whatever reason it's not there, go ahead and hit the back button, which takes you back to your search results, and look for the cached link, which is usually at the end of the URL, at the end of that search paragraph for that item. And clicking on the cached link should bring up a copy of the page as it appeared at the time that Google indexed that page. And the wonderful part about this is it's going to have your search terms actually highlighted in yellow, so you can very quickly find on the page what it was you were looking for. Now, if you don't see a cached link, it might be because the owners of the site have requested Google to remove the cached version or to not cache their content at all, which is possible. And also, any sites that Google hasn't indexed obviously are not going to have cached versions. Now, there's a limit to this. If the original page is more than 101 kilobytes of text, the cached version's only going to have the first 101 kilobytes. So you may find that the entire page isn't there, but you're going to have the beginning section, which at least will give you an idea if you're looking at the right thing. Now, you're really looking for an oldie but a goodie website? You could try the Wayback Machine. And I've got a link to that site in my show notes for episode number 5. It allows you to browse through 85 billion web pages archived from 1996 to just a few months ago, which is really cool. So, to start surfing the Wayback, type in the web address of the website or page where you want to start and press enter. Then select from the archived dates available. The resulting pages point to other archived pages at as close a date as possible. The important thing to keep in mind is this is not available on a keyword search basis. You really have to know what the site was that you're looking for in order to put that address in there. So now I hope you won't give up hope if you do a search, find a great result, and then there's no page there. Take a look at the cached version and take a look at the Wayback Machine. You might still get lucky. And coming up next, our next gem is going to spice up your database. You know, a couple of months ago, I was working in my genealogy database, and I realized that some family lines, I have a tremendous amount of photographs, which I've got linked to each person, and it's wonderful. You can see their face looking at you as you're looking at their data, which really makes them seem very real. But I have other lines where I don't have any photographs, or very few, and after a while, when you're looking through that family tree, I don't know, I'm a very visual person. It just can seem very impersonal. You start to see these people as more as entries than as people. So I came up with a little gem that I wanted to share with you about how to spice up your database and really bring a little more life to the ancestors that you're researching. I mean, after all, for me, genealogy isn't just about, dates and numbers and names. It's really about the people. It's about making that kind of come to life for those of us today, looking back upon our ancestors. And this is one way to do it. I'm a very visual person, and this is going to add a visual touch to your database. What I did was I took a look at an individual, tried to assess what is it that I do know about this person, even though I don't have a photo of them. In some cases, I know their occupation. And in other cases, I know what their hobbies were, or what they were known for doing, or, whatever the details are that have come through family history or through your research, through interviews. You've probably got some details that help you look at this person as a unique individual. And that's going to be the basis for finding an image that would represent them well. In the case of Harry Cook, who was Raymond Cook's father, who I've mentioned in previous podcasts, he was a blacksmith, and he started as an apprentice at the age of 13. And he was really a blacksmith in one form or another his entire life. I don't have any photographs of Harry, so I went out and I did a Google search on images. If you haven't used the images search, It's terrific, and once you do, you'll be hooked forever. The first normal search that you do is web. Just click on where it says images. You'll still have your search box, but now when you type in a keyword, it's going to bring up any images that fit those keywords well. So I just typed in blacksmith. You can even alter it if you find too many modern photographs or images, and you could put in historical or history or, something that will help define it to be something that looks a little more like it would fit into a historical format. And I found a really neat old etching that was done from the 19th century of a blacksmith. And it was a man, at the hearth. So what I did was I right-clicked on the image and saved it to my hard drive. And from the hard drive then, I can link it into my database. So now every time I pull up Harry Cook's record, I have an image of this 19th century blacksmith hammering away. And I gotta tell you, it makes a difference. It puts a smile on my face when I see it, and it keeps in the forefront of my mind what his background is, the fact that I don't have a real photograph. I want to make sure I'm going to keep working on that. And I'm going to tell you, don't give up hope if you don't have photographs of your ancestors. In a very near future episode, I'm going to talk about ways where you truly can unearth photographs that you just didn't know existed. I have certainly had several situations where photographs have come into my possession that I never thought I would see. But for now, it's really great to have an image there that represents that person as a real person, not just an entry. Now, another option, if you don't have a lot of specifics about occupation or whatever, are using silhouettes. It's a wonderful 19th century art form, and there are lots of silhouette images available on the internet that you could certainly use. I'll actually have a couple of examples of silhouettes on my website. One of them in particular that I really liked was a silhouette of a gentleman, obviously a 19th century gentleman. He has long coat tails, and he's reading. And it reminded me so much of my husband's grandfather, Raymond Cook, talking in his autobiography about his father-in-law, Reverend John Munns. And John would travel to the different homes of his family throughout the year, and he held huge stashes of books in each location. So at Raymond's house, they had over 900 books in a library that were all from Reverend Munns. And he spent a great deal of his time reading the books and studying the Bible. So this image was just perfect for using for him because I don't have a photo of him. I really do enjoy seeing it every time I pull up his record to work on it. So I really hope you'll take me up on this one and try and insert some images into your database to replace the missing photos. I think that it'll really spice up your database, and it will certainly put a smile on your face as you're working with the records. Well, that's it for this week's edition of the Genealogy Gems podcast. Now remember, I'd love to hear from you, so I hope that you'll email me at genealogygemspodcast@gmail.com with comments, questions, suggestions. I read every single email, and I would be happy to help you out with anything that I can, so do keep them coming. And be sure and subscribe for free from the website at www.genealogygemspodcast.com to get all the future episodes, because in the next week's episode, we're going to be looking at some terrific creative ways to share your research with others. And I've also got a very special announcement to make, so you won't want to miss that. If you're new to podcasting, I hope that you'll click on the Frequently Asked Questions link on the right-hand side of the homepage of my website. It'll answer any questions that you have about what podcasts are, and I've included a really simple how-to instruction for subscribing for free to the podcast. So that's it for now, friend. I'll talk to you soon. I've got some great news for all you genealogists out there. Roots Magic 6 is now available, and it offers some of the most customer-requested features, like online publishing, the ability to search every record, not just people, an editable timeline view, which is really incredible, and new web tags, which lets you link people, sources, places, and research log items to web pages. Plus, dozens of other great enhancements, and of course, all the built-in features that you've come to enjoy. There is a little something here for everyone. Now, if you're already a devoted Roots Magic user like I am, or if you're looking to take the next step in your family history research and finally start recording your family tree in your own genealogy database, or if you've just been wanting to make a switch to a much more user-friendly program, there's no better time to get your copy of Roots Magic 6. Do it now. Go to rootsmagic.com and download your risk-free trial of Roots Magic 6. You'll see why professionals and beginners alike choose Roots Magic at rootsmagic.com. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. It's so nice to be talking to you today. As I mentioned in episode number 5, I have an announcement about a very special upcoming podcast, but more about that at the end of this show. You know, Passover begins this week. It's on Monday, April 2nd of 2007, and it begins at sundown. If you want to learn more about Jewish roots, check out the 350 Years of American Jewish History website. I'll have a link in the episode 6 show notes. It's www.350th.org. And of course, there's always the Jewish Gen website, the home of Jewish genealogy. And I'll have a link on the show notes for that as well. Hey, did you find anything interesting on youtube.com after last week's episode? Or did you add a family history video of your own? I'd love to share your stories with our other listeners. And if you found something that shed a little light on your family's history, be sure and email me and tell me all about your gem at genealogygemspodcast@gmail.com. Be sure to include a link to your video or the video that you found, and we'll be sure to share that. Now, a follow-up on one of last episode's gems. In episode number 5, one of our gems was spicing up your database. I told you a little bit about how to spice up your database by adding silhouettes and artistic images to the file of an ancestor that you don't have a photograph of. Not to give up hope on finding those photographs, but this is a wonderful place marker and something to make it a little more enjoyable to work within that record. Well, probably the most famous silhouettes these days are the silhouettes used by Apple for advertising the iPod, which you may very well be listening to this podcast on. And it may surprise the teenagers or grandchildren in your home to learn that the first silhouettes were not done by Apple, but they were done hundreds of years ago. Now, back then, silhouettes, or they used to call them shades, they were paintings or drawings of a person's shadow. And they were popular amongst English royalty, and the art form quickly spread throughout Europe. A silhouette can also be cut from black paper, and it was a very simple alternative for people who really couldn't afford any other forms of having their portrait done, which in the 18th century, I'm sure, was still a very expensive proposition. Well, the word silhouette took its name from, and I will try to pronounce his name, Etienne de Silhouette. But it's uncertain as to whether his name was attributed because he really liked this art form, or as the story sometimes goes, because the victims of his taxes in France complained that they were reduced to mere shadows. But either way, the popularity of silhouettes hit new heights in the United States, where they were seen in magazines, brochures, books, all kinds of printed materials. But they really kind of faded from popularity when photographs started taking over in the 1900s. So as a follow-up, I wanted to share with you a simple technique for creating your own silhouettes. You can use just ordinary snapshots to create a visual family record. So, what you do is you take a photo of a person in profile against a neutral background. Now, paint in the photo background around the person's silhouette in white acrylic paint, or you could use tempera paint. And then you fill in the image of the person themselves with a really heavy black permanent marker, maybe something like a Sharpie. And you can add some real fun details, like eyelashes or cowlicks, hats or jewelry, things that might express the person's personality, and you can just use a fine tip marker to fill those in. Then photocopy the doctored photos onto quality art paper. Now, since glossy paper really works best, you could also use your computer scanner to scan the image into your hard drive. From there, you can add it to your database, or you could print it out onto some glossy photo paper and mount that. Now, to represent folks in your family tree, try creating a silhouette of your father to represent his great-great-grandfather. Maybe you could add a farmer's hat or a rake. Have him hold a rake to represent his profession of farming. Chances are your dad has inherited some of his great-great-grandfather's profile attributes anyway. So have fun with it and really be creative. But of course, you want to be really sure to label the silhouette appropriately as a creative interpretation rather than a literal rendering. We don't want to get that mixed up as it gets handed down to the generations. You can also do silhouettes of your family, including extended family, and you could arrange the portraits together on your wall. Use black painted frames in a variety of shapes. I love garage sailing, and you can always get a mishmash of small frames that you could then paint black and hang them in a way that represents your family tree or the relationships that people have. Again, be sure to visit my website at www.genealogygemspodcast.com and episode number 6. I'll have a couple of images up there to help guide you along on this project. One shows you the technique for creating your silhouette from the photograph, and the other one gives you an idea of a way that you might want to arrange your silhouettes on the wall. So do you have any old family heirloom silhouettes from your family? Why don't you email me a photo of it and a little background on how it pertains to your family, and I might just post it on the website. Well, I hope this follow-up gem has piqued your interest, and I wanted to make sure that if it has, that you have some resources to use. Check out the Art Cafe Network website for a short history of silhouettes by Catherine Courtney. It's very informative. Just click on the link in today's show notes. And they even have additional pages with more detailed how-to information, particularly about that cutting technique using the black paper. And I'll have that link on the show notes as well. And there's 2 really good books from Amazon.com that you could get. One of them is Silhouettes, Rediscovering the Lost Art by Catherine Flocken. And that gives you a nice background and history if you're really interested in not only learning more about silhouettes, but some folks really even enjoy collecting them as well, like from antique shops and flea markets. Also, as a resource for your database and other types of projects that you might want to be doing, try the Old-Fashioned Silhouettes. It's a CD-ROM and a paperback book, and it's put together by the Dover Electronics series, and that also is available through Amazon, and there's links for both of those resources on the website. So go have fun and cast a little shadow on your ancestors. Coming up next, gem number 2, the Gen Web Project. It never ceases to amaze me when I chat with folks researching their family tree that so many of them have never used the Gen websites on the internet. Last year, the U.S. Gen website celebrated its 10th anniversary. Time really flies, doesn't it? It was one of the first big sites that was out there, put together totally by volunteers and available to us genealogists. The U.S. Gen Web Project consists of a group of volunteers working together to provide internet websites for genealogical research in just about every county and every state of the United States. The project is totally non-commercial, and it's fully committed to providing free access to everybody, which of course we like very much. Now, organization within the website is by state and then by county. And really, it mirrors wonderfully the way that U.S. records are really done, which is typically on a county basis for so many of them. The U.S. Gen Web Project also sponsors some special projects at the national level, which you can also learn more about from the website. So you can go to the home page of the website and click on the state of your choice from the left-hand column. I'll have a link in there in the show notes to the home page. And from the state page, you can select the county that you wish to search in. But when I know the name of the county that I want to do some research in, I found that it's often quicker just to use a google.com search. Something like when I'm always researching in Sibley County, Minnesota. And so I type in GenWeb, which is GenWeb, Sibley County, Minnesota. But either way, the choice is yours. I just find that usually that will take me straight to the link for that particular county. And remember to use that Google gem that I gave you in episode 1 to quickly search within the county website. A lot of the websites, they're really terrific, but it's kind of a hit or miss whether they have their own internal search engine that allows you to search within that site. And that was one of the motivations why I really found out and started using that Google technique. Oftentimes I would go to a county page on GenWeb and they wouldn't have a search engine, but there was lots of data in there. So I would use the search function within the site. But these county sites are really, really rich, though. And after doing a focused search, perhaps using some keywords, places, surnames, that type of thing, it's really rewarding just to wander around. Do some window shopping in the county sites. The neat thing about it is that you may very well stumble into something that is connected to your family history, but you'll also really just become so much more familiar with that county, and that's going to pay off down the road. Typically, the folks who are working on those sites are ones that are either researching there themselves or live within that county and care about the history. And so you're just going to learn an awful lot that you wouldn't pick up anywhere else. You'll find databases on these sites, such as births, deaths, marriages, township histories, which I love, plat maps, surnames, a host of other topics. You'll usually find a list of people and the surnames that they're researching within that county, which is always great to make connections. And whenever I'm looking for someone to do a lookup for me or maybe go photograph a tombstone or whatever, I usually check the Gen website first and contact a volunteer that they have that's made themselves available to do that kind of research. And I most often find that the volunteers really are above and beyond helpful. And so when we're nice to them, they're nice to us, and they're there because they want to help and they care about the research in that county as well. Now, because each county has its own volunteer coordinator, the information that you're going to find is going to vary a lot from county to county. So just keep that in mind. And as always, information is always being added on a regular basis to any website or to the internet in general. So you need to bookmark a site that you have family from that area and return to it on a regular basis just to see what's new and what's out there. Last but not least, I really want to encourage you to be sure to share your resources with the U.S. Gen website projects as well. That's the power behind the Gen Web project. It's their volunteers. Volunteering your county resources, books that you may have, photographs, whatever, it's going to enrich other people's experiences and research and will likely lead to connections that will continue to further your own research. So be sure and don't be afraid to do that. Typically, on the front page of that county website, you're going to find the coordinator's email address, and I have never found anybody who wasn't ecstatic to receive an email with new information on the county, and they were always glad to add it. Now, if you want to learn more about internet research in general, and certainly the U.S. Gen Web project has been a cornerstone in the genealogical areas of the internet, go to the link on my website, and there's a great book called The Complete Idiot's Guide to Online Genealogy. It's in its second edition, and it's by Rhonda McClure. And coming up next, that exciting announcement that I promised you at the beginning of the show. Well, as I promised, I've got some exciting news that I wanted to share with you. And that is that on Saturday, April 21st of 2007, I'm going to be attending the seminar sponsored by the Livermore Amador Genealogical Society in Northern California. And it promises to be a wonderful one-day seminar. And one of the special guest speakers they're going to be having is Dr. Stephen Morse. And Dr. Morse has agreed to an interview with me. I'll be interviewing Dr. Stephen P. Morse, Ph.D., who is a world-renowned engineer and amateur genealogist. He's going to be speaking at the seminar on genealogical search tools, his specialty, the Ellis Island search forms, and the U.S. Census. If you're not already familiar with him, Dr. Morris holds electrical engineering degrees from 3 different universities, which he put to good use when he designed the Intel 8086 processor, which was a predecessor to today's Pentium processor. He's now retired and is a member of the San Francisco Bay Area Jewish Genealogical Society. He focuses on his one-step pages, which you can find at a link in the show notes. It's www.stevemorse.org. And those one-step search form pages are really used by genealogists worldwide. There's more than 140 search utilities on the one-step web pages, and he adds new ones all the time. So I'm really looking forward to having a few minutes to sit down and talk with him and have him share with you what he's been working on and his latest and greatest tips for searching within your favorite search engines. Stay tuned for future episodes, and I'll give you an update as to when that interview will be played. Well, that's it for this week's edition of the Genealogy Gems podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been fun. The time always flies by. And remember, I always love to hear from you. Be sure and email me. The email address is genealogygemspodcast@gmail.com. Email me with questions that you may have, comments, or things that you might like to share on some of the gems and how they've been working out for you. Be sure and tune in next week as we delve into the records of the only war fought on American soil by Americans. You won't want to miss it. And one way to ensure that you don't miss any Genealogy Gems episodes is to subscribe, which is always free. And it's really easy. Go to www.genealogygemspodcast.com and click on the Frequently Asked Questions link on the right-hand side of the page. Everything you need to know about how to subscribe in iTunes is right there for you. Once you've followed this simple process, you will automatically receive new episodes of the podcast as soon as they are published. And iTunes is a really convenient way to listen from your PC or to download the podcast onto your favorite MP3 player or iPod. Well, that's it for now, friend. Have a wonderful week doing your research, and I'll talk to you again soon.